All right, so I thought this would be fun. I found a little video with our old friend Pine Creek Doug. Yeah, Pine Creek Doug, our old friend. Um, Kind of on the topic. It's not quite what I've been talking about, but it's close enough that I thought it'd be fun to take a look. Now, if you've been listening to my videos of late, you know the question that I've thrown out there. What is the status of immaterial objects given atheism? Or there's no such thing as an immaterial object, Craig. It's an object, it can be immaterial. Okay, good point. So what is the status of abstract objects given atheism, if you prefer? Um, this is just a little fun thing I found by accident with Pine Creek and this guy Jim Bob, and it's not quite what I've been talking about, but it's close enough that it'll be fun to look at. So let's take a look, see, shall we?
Are you the same Jim Bob that came here the other day? You look like you should be hunting.
Yeah, it looks like Trapper John.
I'm sorry to interrupt your analysis of that.
Oh, I was done. I gave my Forrest Gump ending.
I wanted to ask you about the thing you said to the last guy. You said that
See, Jim Bob, if you do not know, I sort of discovered him by accident. He was in a debate with Nathan. That's the famous debate where Nathan took his shirt off at the end. Yeah, why he did that, I'm not sure. And the debate wasn't, outside of that, the debate wasn't all that interesting. But I checked out Jim Bob's channel a little bit. It's a pretty decent channel. From what I gather, he is an Eastern Orthodox, fairly recently became one, like within 3 years, I think. And he's somewhat of a disciple of Jay Dyer and patristic faith. And he's not quite going to run an argument here, but it's close enough to what I've been talking about that maybe it will be illustrative for our purposes.
the laws of logic are properties of the universe, right?
Yes.
So you agree that the laws of logic are conceptual, right?
No, I just say that we as humans use those words to describe reality.
Well, they're not words, they're laws of thought. So like if we say the laws of thought would be the law of identity.
Okay, one thing he's going to be confused. I don't remember this. I watched this a while ago, but one thing is going to confuse people is he uses laws of thought, and laws of logic and laws of thought are interchangeable. So the point here, and I'm not sure if this is going to be that good of an illustration, but the question I was asking, what is the status of immaterial objects given atheism? So you got a guy here, Pine Creek. Now, as I said, of course, Dave Rollins got it and Joe got it immediately, said it's about coherence. So if you have a worldview wherein, you say the subway doesn't exist in my worldview, and I say to you, well, what are you talking? You say to me, Craig, what are you talking about? You just rode the subway yesterday. Well, see, then my worldview is basically incoherent and cannot account for the world as it actually occurs. And it would be fitting to now relegate my worldview, my philosophy, to minority status. If you can't account for the world as it actually occurs, then you relegate it to minority status. As the example I always use is the young earth creationist. You're saying the earth is 6,000 years old. Well, it looks to all the evidence that the earth is not 6,000 years old. So that is why that position gets relegated to minority status. Now, I'm sure they have counter arguments about radiometric dating or something, or how it's not accurate. Or I'm not sure what the arguments are. I've never checked. So it doesn't mean that the worldview is totally annihilated. It just means it's until such time it is put on back burner minority status until such time as the seemingly obvious contradictions can be accounted for. Now, as I've said, atheism is not above this. What the question that I've been asking, and I think it's a really potentially powerful question. Again, it's about coherence. Okay. Pine Creek is going to have something present in his ontology. He is going to grant status to abstract objects, laws of logic, why he uses them too. When he formulates his scam arguments, he uses the laws of logic just like I do, just like everybody else. So they're going to be present in his ontology. Does everyone understand? But not yet present and accounted for in his epistemology. And that is a potentially lethal contradiction. There's no reason why atheism can't be abandoned for something more coherent. Call yourself an agnostic Neoplatonist tomorrow. And then, there's a couple of people who've been debating me on this over the the course of the videos, if you're an atheist and you say, oh, easy, I'm a nominalist. Oh, okay, that solves it. I'll take the video down. It doesn't work like that. We're not talking about the ontological status of God. Therefore, there's no special, you don't get to pull that, I have some sort of special burden of proof when we're talking about a worldview. It's worldview, we're comparing worldview to worldview, apples to apples. So if you say you're a nominalist, yeah, that's a possible reconciliation. I understand that. But now you have to come up with a robust justification for the position of nominalism. And it isn't all that easy to do. Okay. I've posted my argument for Platonism, the robust justification for it. It's on my channel about 10 videos back. It's by none other than Quine. Keep in mind, Quine is perhaps the best philosopher, one of the best philosophers of the last 100 years. And it's his justification for Platonism. So if you say I'm a nominalist, yeah, that helps relegate the status of abstract objects to non-existent, but I'm not sure it can be defended in all cases, and I'm not sure it's coherent. And now you have a burden of justification to show how it works. It's not just upon me. See, the scam where you say you're the one making the positive claim, Craig, doesn't apply once we are no longer talking about the ontological status of God. That move is no longer valid. We're both comparing worldview to worldview, apples to apples. The Democrat and the Republican are on equal footing. It's really important that you see it that way. Why? Because we're trying to ascertain what's true. So we have to compare the two worldviews as paradigms. And I think this is potentially a fatal flaw in the atheist worldview. Now, as I said, Eric Steinhardt, the Platonic atheist. I'm not saying he can't be a Platonic atheist. Osnian Talks got it completely. I said, can there be such a thing? This is the question. Can there be such a thing as a Platonic atheist? He said, and this is the right answer, yes, I think so, but I'm not sure how you would justify it. Okay, you tell me how you justify it. I 100% agree with that. That's the correct answer. You tell me how you justify it, and all my videos on this particular topic go away. Does everyone understand? I mean, it's a little complicated, but that's why we're going to go over it a lot.
Let's say that just the fundamental ones. I know that crazy logic nerds can be like, there's all these other ones.
Just a language, Jim.
No, it's not a language.
No, it's not. It's a tool of inference. See, this is where the atheists are going to start getting into trouble because they don't actually unpack the things they believe. Why they don't think they have to. Remember, oh, you're the one making a positive claim, Craig. That's all they got to do. Wait for me to say God exists. They go, I don't believe you.
It's a rule for language. A language would be math or Italian or English. And so the laws of logic are the rules by which we construct languages in an intelligible way.
Tools of inference. The only possible objection that holds water, if you're going to say, when I talk about this, I say there's two transcendental categories you should use: laws of logic, mathematical axioms, just to keep it simple. Because the only possible objection to the laws of logic that holds water is that they are internal psychological tools of inference alone. In other words, not extant to the human being. That's why you go to two transcendental categories.
So I wouldn't say laws of logic are language. And if that's the case, language doesn't actually exist in the universe as a property. Language is a byproduct of our minds and our description of things. So descriptions themselves don't exist in the universe, correct? You don't find a description, right, in the universe?
Sure, but we find us who are making sound waves.
Well, we can't call sound waves without laws of logic to distinguish them from other things, right? So that's what I mean by the laws of logic.
You can't have the laws of logic without the universe.
Right.
That's a classic Pinecreek like non sequitur. I'm out. I got it. I'm out. Like, yeah, okay, you can't have the laws of logic without the universe. You can't have anything without the universe. So that's like not really a relevant thing to say. He does stuff like that a lot, where he just pulls this sort of like weird thing that out of left field that's more or less a non sequitur that he thinks, answers the questions. He did that with what was it? Ouija boards was the question. He goes, oh, did you know that you can, when you close your eyes, Ouija boards don't work? And he presented that as if that's some sort of, oh, okay, therefore there's nothing going on with the Ouija board that needs to. I mean, I'm not even sure what he thinks that means. I'm not sure how he thinks it's significant. He looks for these like easy outs, and then it's hard to demonstrate to him that the easy outs are either irrelevant or non sequiturs or not pertinent to what's being discussed.
We could say that, but you could say that with anything. You can't have anything without the universe. But
Right.
to say that the laws of logic are just a property of the universe, to me, that's the universe, to our knowledge, or at least to your worldview, correct me if I'm wrong, would be a physical thing, either the absence of space or the absence of space with matter in between it, and it would be a material thing, correct? Would you say the universe is a material
Yes.
item? Okay, so concepts themselves are not found in the universe. Like a numbers are concepts. Meaning is concepts. There's no actual. Would you agree? There's no actual meaning in the physical universe.
No.
But you would say, but because, and I'll grant you this, but because humans are a part of the universe, you can say the concepts that humans then derive or generate or express are indirectly a result of the universe.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, but to say that the laws of logic are just the property of just the universe, as if they're eternal, wouldn't make sense if you agree that there is a time frame in which.
See, it's important if you do this, if you're going to try and use these things. Now, as I said, there are the honest actor atheists. Who'd I use? Stacey K is the example. Dave Rollins. If you are talking to an honest actor atheist, you don't have to run arguments at all. You put the sword down, just have a conversation. Last week, Rollins and I were talking about what were we even talking about? Fun horror movies. Fresh. We both agree that Fresh is pretty cool. It's a good horror movie on Hulu. X and a couple others. There's a Scream reboot that's halfway decent. So you can just, if you're dealing with an honest actor atheist, there's no reason to run arguments at all. This is only for in a situation like this. Okay, Pinecreek wants to be in the driver's seat. He wants to be the one asking all the questions. Notice how impatient he's already being sitting on the receiving end of the Inquisition. He wants to be the one asking all the questions, but he's kind of muddying the water. If you're going to do this type of thing that I'm working on, okay. First of all, I recommend, if a lot of people were arguing against, like if you listen to that last video, that I did not put any argument for God in the video. There's no argument for God in there on purpose. This is just about asking a coherence question about atheism itself. There's nothing magical about atheism, the position. If it at root can't be reconciled to abstract objects, and this is really the question, he's not really getting to the root of the question because he's doing a lot of just dancing around, describing, anticipating the objections, which is fine, but you should try to keep this really crisp and really simple. What is the status of abstract objects given atheism? There's only a handful of answers that will for the atheist. The reason why there was such a philosophy as logical positivism to begin with. Anytime you have an abstract entity, anything that is immaterial, invisible, transcendent, other than matter and motion, it is automatically more consistent with atheism if you can relegate that thing to the status of that does not exist. That's what a nominalist is trying to do. It's trying to say the Platonic category, the transcendent category in Platonic category exists in name only. It's not an actual thing. The problem for the nominalist, even, okay, as I've said, if you're a nominalist, I think I already said this in this video, but I'll repeat it because it bears repeating. The atheist always says to me, you're the one making the positive claim, Craig. That is, if that move is valid, it is only valid insofar as we are talking about the ontological status of God. Once we are not talking about that, that move is no longer valid. If we're talking worldview to worldview, precept to precept, and we're trying to make a valid comparison between two worldviews, they are on equal footing. And you have just as much the burden of proof as I do. And it's really important that you accept that. Why? Because we're trying to figure out what's true. And you don't get to automatically put me on the defense every time. As I've said, I posted a really robust justification for Platonism on my channel by one of the best philosophers of the last 100 years. You could go look at that. Okay. If you say I'm a nominalist, yes, that gets you out of this question. Why? Because you are relegating the immaterial, transcendent, other than matter and motion thing to the status of non-existent, existent name only. But it doesn't work in every situation. That's why you have to adopt the burden of proof to prove that nominalism works. Justify nominalism. You can't just say, oh, I'm a nominalist. That solves it. A lot of atheists try to run these things because they don't really care what's true, to be perfectly honest. They just want to win stupid debates. That's why those two goofballs, the last time I put this video up, there were the two goofballs who tried to debate right from the start, declare the video invalid because there's no such thing as an immaterial object. That's dumb, first off, but what that person is trying to do is preempt a conversation, not actually have a conversation. Atheists run that all the time. Now, Dave and Joe never do that stuff. Why? Because they're actual philosophers. They're actually trying to unpack things correctly and see what's true. And they both gave the right answer. 3 right answers I heard last week. Actually, 4. There was the week before when I was posting the question, there was also Noel Plum who said, I don't think atheism pertains to anything other than the ontological status of God. So you can include laws of logic, mathematical axioms. I don't see what the issue is. Okay, that's a perfectly valid thing to say. And I applaud his integrity. The problem is I'm not sure every other atheist is going to agree with that. If you go watch Eric Steinhardt in his debate with T. Jump, okay, they only talk about on this topic for the first hour, but there's a lot of pushback from other atheists who don't think you can include this stuff. Why? Say on the same grounds that you can't include my sky fairy. You got no empirical evidence for your platonic forms. You got no same grounds. Now, to just briefly try and show you how nominalism potentially fails, for example, I'm only sticking to laws of logic and mathematical axioms just to keep it simple. It's already really complicated. So I'm going to try to parse this down and make it even simpler. But there's a lot of transcendent categories, and there's a debate on each one of them going back hundreds of years. So you take universals versus particulars, where you have the two options, the Platonist, the Platonic realist, and the nominalist. Everybody clear? Universals versus particulars. You have those two polarities. You're either a realist and say the transcendent category of the universal exists, or you're a nominalist and say there's only the particulars. Take it in that situation, you see where nominalism potentially fails, because the universe says there's a cat in front of me. That cat has something in common with every other cat, a quality of cat-likeness that it shares really obviously with all the other things that we call cats. That's why it's called a transcendent category, because it transcends the particular cat and is something that is held in common by all cats. They all meow, they all have whiskers, they all whatever. Now that seems to be really obviously and intuitively correct. The nominalist says, no, there's just a particular cat. And then when they try to explain it, there are three, it's more nuanced than that, but it starts to sound like pretzel logic, because they're trying to basically do away with the fact that cats share a common identity. You get it now? Why are they doing that? Usually for ideological reasons. Because once you acknowledge that the cat shares a common identity with other cats, then you have an actual thing that they share in common, a universal. I'm not going to go there yet, but eventually that could potentially create problems for an atheist too. That's why the smarter atheists will say nominalist and then try and defend it. But if you're defending something for ideological reasons, not because it's the best possible position, this is why you have to defend it precept to precept, philosophy to philosophy. Can't just say I'm a nominalist, therefore it solves it. Take your video down, Craig. Why? Because I'm a nominalist. You have to offer a robust justification of nominalism versus Platonism in a lot of different areas where I don't think it works. So if Platonism is the more consistently correct way to frame this, then then you should adopt Platonism. You see why it's got to be on equal footing. Again, I understand that this is getting really complicated. It's hard to keep it simple, but
humans weren't here using them, right? That's to say that the laws of logic were actually here, even though they're immaterial and conceptual. But humans, there was a time that humans didn't have access or didn't use them or didn't exist to let's say develop
Correct.
enough So yeah, okay. So to state that the laws of logic are products of the universe, but you couldn't possibly show me the laws of logic without the human mind, right? You couldn't materialize
The
it.
brain, yeah.
Yeah, the brain. You couldn't materialize the laws of logic.
You also have to be careful when you're talking about this stuff because he's kind of boxing himself in. Try to keep it as simple as possible. Okay. Laws of logic only focus on two laws of logic, mathematical axioms. Why two? Because every atheist is going to grant you the laws of logic. They have to. Why? They use them too. As I said, if your worldview, if I say to you, in my worldview, there's no subway, and you say, Craig, you rode the subway yesterday, then my worldview has a problem of coherence. Okay. Everyone gets that part, right? If an atheist uses the laws of logic to formulate his atheist arguments, just like I do, then he's got to grant them ontological status. Why? Because he used them, just like I rode the subway. They're there. Now, the only out for the laws of logic is that they're internal psychological tools of inference. You can already anticipate that out if you're going to run this with an atheist. That's the out that's coming. Why? Because that's the only one. They got two outs that they'll throw at you. Descriptive only. They're not descriptive. They're prescriptive by definition. So that one's out. That's the atheist out. And they'll say they're descriptions. They're not descriptions at all. It's a totally incoherent idea. They're prescriptive by definition. A law is a tool of inference. If you violate the law, you have illogic or illogical contradiction. The second one is on firmer ground, internal psychological tool of inference alone. So that's why I said two transcendental categories, a mathematical axiom. So the question becomes a mathematical Platonist versus a mathematical nominalist. And if Platonist is the superior position of those two, you, the nominalist, I understand that that's an out, but you have to justify it, robust justification for nominalism. You can't just ask me, defend Platonism, Craig, defend Platonism. No, I posted a robust justification for Platonism by one of the best philosophers of the last 100 years. That's not enough for you to accept that Platonism is correct, so be it. But you still have to defend nominalism. You can't just say this solves it. You got to show me, demonstrate to me how it solves it, because if Platonism is the superior choice of those two, then we should opt with Platonism. Everybody understands the theoretical virtues, right? I know Joe and Dave do. Everybody else does. If you've got a choice between two options and one is superior, you got to go with the superior option, even if you're an atheist. Even if you anticipate down the road that's going to become a problem for me as an atheist. You can't adopt with the weaker option for ideological reason, then use pretzel logic to defend it. Why? Because it's not a valid move. Everyone get it?
Logic, right? Without it,
No, no, Greg. No, we don't get it all. All right. Well, keep watching the videos. You'll get it eventually. It's not that complicated. It's just hard. It's hard to unpack properly. Okay. And it's not something. Nobody needs to debate me in the comment section. No, this is just food for thought, guys. Nobody needs to argue with me. Okay, this argument is going to be built up over a series of months, if not years. And there's nothing you can say to me. There's nothing you can do to me that Castro hasn't done already. Okay, so there's nothing you can say to me in the comments section that's going to make any difference, I doubt. I understand what the objections are, and I understand the counter arguments. Okay, you need to think about it. And if you got a valid way out of this, like I said, there's one guy, Eric Steinhardt, who was working on a valid way out. There's another guy, Thomas Nagel, who has noticed this, been working on this for years. Probably the best philosopher in the atheist community, has been working on this for years. You're not smarter than them. You don't have a better answer. You need to just chill out and learn, and actually, be in your best interest to really go deep, because you can't just guess at this stuff. That's what the two goofballs were trying to do in the last time I posted the video, trying to just guess at objections. You can't do that. Why? Because it's stupid. You got to actually know what you're talking about, or you'll make a fool out of yourself. And just because you don't know you're making a fool out of yourself, I didn't know I was making. I understand the guy who was making the objections didn't know he was making a fool out of himself, but he was. Okay.
Brain.
No, they're properties of the universe.
No, they aren't.
The laws of logic.
Yeah, but when you say property,
How do you explain the laws of logic?
You see how he tried to flip the script? Now Pinecreek is getting uncomfortable being inquired of. He'd much rather be driving the ship.
the laws of logic, like describe them?
No. Where do they come from?
Well, I mean,
Also, if you're an atheist, I understand that most I'm not making an argument for God here. So I'm not jumping to, I understand that you're already anticipating where this goes. I'm not going there. This isn't about, you can't justify him, so only God can justify him. I'm not sure that move works. So I'm not signing off on that as the way most presuppositionals frame this, is they say, you, the atheist, can't justify the laws of logic. God can. Not quite sure that move works. If it does work, it may work in terms of coherence. I haven't unpacked it properly, but it certainly doesn't work as now the atheist goes, oh, okay, you prove God to me. Doesn't work like that. So don't jump ahead to the transcendental argument or the tag argument, whatever you think you know about that. Why? Because I'm not presenting that. Only dealing with the first leg and dealing with it correctly so that you understand there's a potential lethal contradiction for atheists here. Potentially lethal. There's no reason on earth why you can't say, I am no longer an atheist. I am now a Platonic Neoplatonist. You got no evidence for your Skyfarer. Great. The Platonic Neoplatonist thinks I don't either. He doesn't believe in God either. There's absolutely no reason on earth why you need to be an atheist. Okay? If this is a real logical contradiction, I'm not sure that it is. I'm not saying it is. Like I said, the question is, can it be reconciled? How do you account for abstract objects given atheism? It's a really, really loaded question. It's a really loaded question. And it really honestly is. But I'm not going to where the place where all the other, Christians go with these arguments. They haven't really gotten these arguments up to speed yet. All I'm doing is being influenced by these arguments because I see the potential in them. And if you're smart and you've been following along, you get it. You see the potential in this too. Why? Because it's pretty obvious. Whenever an atheist has to bite the bullet, if an atheist is biting the bullet and granting status to something that is immaterial, invisible, transcendent, other than matter motion, and keep in mind, I'm almost positive that you have to. Why? Because there exist in certain instances as provable fact, like the laws of logic, like mathematical axioms. You have a limited number of outs, but so you bite the bullet and you agree that has ontological status. Now it needs to be present and accounted for in your epistemology. Get it?
We're talking about your claim that they're just properties of the universe, which means the universe.
Yeah,
is
I say that's where they
eternal,
come from.
right?
They're just it's a brute fact. They exist as a consequence of the universe existing.
So then they don't come from anywhere, right?
They come from the properties of the universe. The universe is what it is.
Brute fact doesn't solve the issue. A lot of atheists. That was by this time I think I planted the Tyler Vila, Matt Dillahunty debate. That was the thing. That is why Matt Dillahunty got the better of that debate, because he was trying to have his cake and eat it too. It was really skillful actually, because he was saying, I didn't say they're brute facts. I said, you haven't demonstrated that they need to be anything other than brute facts, something like that. You haven't demonstrated to me that they need to be justified. So brute facts doesn't get you out of my version of the argument. Doesn't matter if they're brute facts. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you, do they have status in your ontology at all? Because if they have status in your ontology, and I think you have to grant them status, then they need to be present and accounted for in your epistemology. You only got a handful of options. A spooky naturalist. By this time, it's probably Halloween. I recommend you go as a ghost. It's easy option. Just put a sheet over your face, cut 2 pillows, cut two holes. One time, I won't even say it. One time I went as a naked lady. I swear to God. Everyone's like, what on earth are you supposed to be? I was wearing all khaki and beige, and I had 2 Sudafed tablets. I wore a bra underneath, and I had 2 Sudafed tablets, and I had a Brillo pad. And people did a double take. And I said, I'm a naked lady. And they looked at me like, and then they process it and they'd be like, oh my God, you're insane. And they walk away. I probably shouldn't have admitted that on YouTube. Okay, anyways, moving right along. So are we all clear on what's going on here? This is just, I did this for fun. This guy will probably get good at these arguments, but right now he's not really running it with enough gusto. His channel's pretty decent though. And he seems to be a sharp guy, so he'll probably get it up to speed. But you got to really zero in on this.
Where do you think that? Well, you know what? I think you're right, Jim Bob. I think I might have this all wrong. Where do the laws of logic come from?
I'm not talking about my claim. I'm talking about yours.
Okay, you convinced me. You convinced me.
I didn't convince you though, because You haven't confronted the fact that
No,
the
the
universe,
reason why
in your view,
the reason why I'm talking this way to you, because I know there's nothing I can say. You're just going to keep blabbing and blabbing and blabbing. That's impossible for laws of logic to be a property of the universe.
No, I
Okay.
didn't say that.
You're saying it is possible?
No, I'm trying to get to what you mean by property of the universe. If you
I
agree
don't
that the
care
laws,
to even talk to you about this.
okay, I mean that's why you have people call in, right?
That's why you have people call up, right? Yeah. But he doesn't want to be the one answering the questions. He doesn't want to be inquired of. He only wants these conversations to go one way, where he puts you on the seat and he goes, Jesus drowns babies. Do you think God is a God of love? Well, Jesus drowns, and then he sets you up. Well, Jesus drowns baby. By the way, Pinecreek, that's a terrible one. A terrible one. The fact that your audience lets you get away with using that day in and day out is inexcusable of them. It's bad that you use it, but it's inexcusable that they allow you to use it. Why? Because first of all, it's ridiculous. It's an appeal to emotion of like the umpteenth time. When Harry Truman bombed Nagasaki, was he firebombing babies? Yeah, technically. You see how that's a ludicrous appeal to emotion? Do you think someone in his cabinet advised against it because you'll be harming babies? No. You agree with the idea that he should have dropped the bomb on Nagasaki, probably, right? Or Hiroshima. But if you don't agree with it, it's not because like he tortured babies. It's just an appeal to emotion. It's ludicrous. Same idea. You say it in the end, and either way, the Christians got it out. If they're not a Bible literalist, then yeah, it's just a story. There's supposed to be some meaning embedded in it. It's a metaphor. Okay, it's just an allegory. It's supposed to tell you about the kindness and severity of God. And if they are Bible literalists, they have an out too. Why? Because they're supposed to literally adopt what the Scripture tells them, and the Scripture tells you literally trust the Lord with all your heart and cling not to your own understanding. So they got an out too. I don't know why. I don't know why God did that, but God is God and I'm not. So I will humbly accept that God. I trust in my heart. I trust the decisions of the Lord, and maybe those babies needed to be smoked. Maybe they need to be annihilated. Why? Because they were, obnoxious. They were obnoxious little babies crying all the time. Man, feed me. Shut up. Here's a flood. Deal with it. Here's a flood. Deal with it. Deal with it, little babies. Shut your mouths.
Because
like you don't.
I can't actually believe I made that joke out loud. I apologize. I apologize for my atrocious sense of humor. Now you know how my wife feels.
I've answered your questions very succinctly.
Quiet, little babies. Have a flood. I'm hungry. Quiet, you little baby. Here's the flood.
You just disagree. That's all.
No, you've answered them, but you're not seeing where there's.
I'm not understanding why I'm wrong.
Well, you don't understand
it. You're wrong.
You don't understand. I mean, granted, he didn't really present the core argument so that you could necessarily get it from that, but you don't quite understand. I mean, that's true.
Is there a chance I'm right? Is there a chance I'm right?
I'm talking about consistent or inconsistent. I don't think right or wrong is the right terminology here.
Okay, what's inconsistent?
Incoherent and inconsistent. Is potentially inconsistent to use a law of logic in your daily life. So now it has ontological status in your reality. Keep in mind what you're agreeing exists, something that is immaterial, transcendent, invisible, other than matter motion, and it can't be empirically verified for. If I tell you, Pinecreek, God exists, you know what you say to me? Got any evidence? I mean empirical evidence. Okay, but you're granting status to something that has no empirical evidence either. That's why you guys got to be careful. If you say, yeah, the laws of logic exist, even though I applaud the integrity of the people who are saying you can be a Platonic atheist, you got to be careful. Why? Because I might be able to take your honesty, okay, and shove Jesus into the crack that you allow. That's why these other type of goofy, dishonest atheists are hem and haw and try to be anomalous and not justify it. Because they're sort of aware that it is inconsistent with atheism to grant status to immaterial, transcendent categories altogether. Why? Because it is. The first strategy of the secularists, going all the way back to Hume, is to try and relegate these things to the status of non-existent. Why? It's more consistent with atheism. really obviously. So yeah, you don't get it, Pinecreek. Oftentimes you don't get it. You do not. Sometimes you do. He's a smart guy, but he's one of these philosophy. I hate philosophy types. He is. He's not as bad as some of the others like Hunt, but he's one of these I don't like philosophy types. But this is a real question. Okay. And for those of you who are really playing along at home and really thinking clearly, okay, I applaud your integrity. It's a real question. And I don't know the answer. I'm not posing this as I got you because I'm not sure what the answer is. The best philosopher in the atheist community, or one of the best, Thomas Nagel, has been working on this for years. How do you reconcile an abstract, immaterial object to atheism? Can it be done? Can it be done? Not sure.
If you're from your view that the universe is eternal, right? And that the laws of logic are just a property of the universe and they come from the universe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They're either, from your view, they just exist because the universe exists. They don't come from the universe. They just are one with the universe. Is there any separation between the universe
I'll grant you
and the
that.
laws of logic?
I'll grant you
Okay.
that. That's fine.
I'm trying to just frame what you actually conceptualize this at. Now, they are conceptual, which you agreed, and they can't be accessed without the human mind, right? The human brain in your
Well, other sentient beings, yeah. But go ahead.
Okay. So if they exist, that means they exist as laws, from your view, independent of the developed brain. So
Yeah.
where in the universe are they if they're properties of the universe without the brain yet there?
The universe is right in front of you. You're in it.
No, I didn't ask that. I asked where are the laws of thought in the physical universe before
There is no laws of thought if there's no thoughts.
Yeah, see, you got to be careful when you're trying to have these conversations. Laws of logic and laws of thought, he meant the same thing. But technically what Pinecreek said there was accurate. Okay, so what he's trying to do, he's trying to get this, to run this in a way that's complicated. Just keep it simple. Laws of logic are immaterial, transcendent, invisible, other than matter and motion. It's that simple. Pinecreek uses them every day. Therefore, they have status in his ontology. He grants them status because he uses them. I ride the subway. I can't turn around and say the subway doesn't exist. Why? I just rode the subway. Because then my worldview is incoherent and cannot account for the worlds that actually occurs. So Pinecreek is granting something status in his ontology. It has actual ontological status that he uses. But as of this hearing, it is not present and accounted for in his epistemology. And this is true of almost every atheist, except for the ones I mentioned. Eric Steinhardt is trying to reconcile. Thomas Nagel, trying to reconcile it. Emerson Green, trying to reconcile it. Can they be successful? I'm not sure. If they can be successful, then these videos go away. If they can't be successful, then, give me the ties, Pinecreek, give me the ties, give me the ties, give me the ties. Most beautiful ties that have ever been ties come from Pinecreek directly to Craig Reed's hands. Bless you, Jesus. This doesn't look like 10% on 10%, Pinecreek. This looks more like 7%. How much did you make last week? This looks like 7%. Give me the real ties, the 10%, the 10%. Most beautiful ties that have ever been tied will come from Pinecreek directly to Craig Reed's hands. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
Okay, so now you're saying it's not a product of the universe, it's a product of the human brain specifically,
No,
brain.
it's a product of thoughts. I'm saying that the laws of logic are products of the universe, whether humans exist or not.
Okay, but that's contradictory then.
How?
Because either the laws of logic are just a product of the developed brain, sentient brain.
I never said that. I never said it was just that.
Okay, I'm sorry. A brain. You want to just say brain?
No. This is a waste of time.
I don't think so. I think you're just in the position I was in yesterday, but we're talking about logic in your position and not mine. The laws of logic, you said they're basically eternal, right? Because the universe is eternal from your view? Possibly.
Yes.
Right. Pinecreek doesn't want to be asked questions that may show him the potential contradictions in his worldview. He just wants to ask gimmicky questions to try and get you the Christian. He doesn't want to be asked gotcha questions, right? clear. He doesn't want to be asked gotcha questions. Okay, and as I said, if you're dealing with an honest actor atheist, put the sword down. You don't need to bother with any of this stuff. This is just for fun, really. But thinking through these things should be enjoyable. By the way, when I go out on my walks at night, I take philosophy lectures and listen to them for fun. Should be enjoying this, or you aren't doing it right, because it's interesting. It's very, very interesting.
And you're saying before humans existed, they couldn't think of them, so therefore we can't think of, so they're not thoughts. Yeah, I agree with all that.
Okay, so I'm saying
what's next?
I'm saying if the laws of logic are eternal, along with the universe,
then
and then the human brain, let's say the brain, suddenly emerges through development and whatnot, and suddenly can use these laws, right?
Right.
I'm saying, do the laws of thought exist before the development of the brain?
What are laws of thought?
Law of identity.
You see how you have to be careful? It's the third time he called them the laws of thought instead of the laws of logic. And he's trying to make an argument that they're extant to the human mind. So it's semantics, but it's not inaccurate of Pinecreek to go, well, what do you mean thought? You're saying the laws of thought. Obviously, a law of thought needs a mind. Hello?
The law of non-contradiction.
Okay, so why are you saying laws of thought instead of laws of logic?
Those are the same thing. Those are synonymous.
Okay, so use laws of logic.
Yeah, laws of logic.
Re-ask your question.
So if the laws of logic are identical to the eternality of the universe, that means they precede the brain, which then uses them once it's developed enough, in your view, to use them, right? So the brain develops, and suddenly we see an external world, and we say, that's that, this is this, that's not this, I am me.
You got it.
You are not, and so forth.
Yep.
Okay, so, but I'm saying if the laws of logic, the way that we define them, exist independent of the brain, and they existed in eternality with the universe before the human brain, where can you locate those things before the human brain? Where would they be?
I wouldn't exist.
So they are not a product of the universe independent of the human. They're more of a product, in your view, of the human.
No. See, we're not communicating. This is useless.
I think you're making two different claims, and then you're saying yes.
What are my two claims I'm making that are not consistent?
One claim is that the laws of logic are an aspect of the universe, and they're eternal.
Yes.
They exist because the universe exists.
Okay. What's the second claim?
And then that basically assumes and entails that the laws of logic exist before our ability to actually use them.
Correct.
Right. But then you're saying,
transcendent, immaterial, invisible, other than matter, motion. So they're transcendent. They are not spatially. They're not time bound. A equals A. You can't go back into time and say, go back 500 years. A equals A. Well, Craig, what are you talking about? This is a long time ago. Transcendent, immaterial. So they're A equals A, today, tomorrow, forever. Hallelujah. But he's not really zeroing in on, because Pinecreek is actually granting him, almost every atheist will grant you the laws of logic exist. Pinecreek is not arguing. He is basically becoming a Platonist in this conversation, because he seems to be saying that the laws of logic exist extant to a human mind, independent of human thought, before the foundation of the universe, right? That they're transcendent, immaterial, invisible. So he's a laws of logic Platonist. He's a Platonic realist when it comes to the laws of logic, at least in this conversation. Okay, be careful, Pinecreek. Why? Because you are admitting too much. Remember, I'm a theist here. The whatever little immaterial, invisible, transcendent you give me, I could probably use that little thing that you saw was just such a small little thing that you agreed to shove Jesus right down your throat and get your freaking tithes. Why? Because you are admitting to something that is immaterial, invisible, transcendent, other than matter, motion. Potentially not consistent with atheism at all. Like I said, like Osniak said, can a Platonist, Pinecreek is a Platonist right now in this conversation. He'll probably draw back from that once he realized that he said it, or maybe he doesn't mean it. We don't know yet, but he said it in here. So if Pinecreek is now a Platonic atheist, fair enough. But Other atheists are going to say you can't be a Platonic atheist. These are the potential problems. Okay, other atheists aren't going to let you be that. Are they going to let Eric Steinhardt into the clubhouse? I'm not sure. Did they let him into the clubhouse? I don't know. So maybe he takes his ball and goes home, and he becomes a Platonic agnostic, a Platonic agnostic. Pinecreek seems to be in this conversation at least somewhat of a Platonist, a Platonic realist when it comes to laws of logic. Other atheists usually argue that they're, internal psychological tools of inference alone. But if he's right at the doorstep of the $1 million question, is this actually reconcilable with atheism? It's not clear to me that it is. You've got to ask the question correctly, and you got to keep it really simple in order to really focus on what's being asked. But is this coherent and consistent with atheism? I'm not sure. The answer is pending. Some of the smartest atheists in the community are working on it as we speak. And no, I wasn't strawmanning them, dude. I was praising them. I was saying that these are the smart ones. These are the ones to watch.
And I'm asking if that's true. I'm not saying, I'm saying where would they be, right? I'm not saying, I'm saying where would they be in the universe before the human can access them?
That's like asking, where is digestion? I mean, it's in the stomach. And so
no, digestion's a no, it's not asking that.
No, digestion is a physical process.
And laws of, okay.
But
yeah.
Right, but where is the proposition digestion? He's sort of right, the kid. Jim Bob is sort of right here. He's not explaining it well enough for Pinecreek to see. Part of the reason why there's a lot of people just go, okay, I'm a Platonic realist. Then the next question does become, where does these mathematical entities exist if they actually exist? You get it? That's why there's confusion about this, because they have no spatial temporal locality. So you start to talk about a transcendent realm. A transcendent realm. That's when you get real Platonism, you're talking about an immaterial transcendent realm, extant to the human being. Does that sound suspiciously like theism to you? Because it should. Once you start agreeing to abstract objects, and keep in mind, my argument the whole time is you have to. Why? Because there exist in some instances as provable fact. Pinecreek is agreeing, and we got him. We got us an atheist. At least in this video, he's probably hear what he agreed to and draw back from it. Or give me the ties. You can do one or the other. Just give me the ties, Pinecreek. Because you're like a woolly-headed Christian. He admitted in this last little snippet there, he was a Platonic laws of logic. He was a Platonic realist about the laws of logic. Okay, now you have a real question. He's not asking. He is asking the right question, but Pinecreek isn't processing correctly. Then he's not explaining it well enough for Pinecreek's smart enough to understand the thing. If you have, when we go back to like the universals versus the particulars, okay, if my cat shares a universal quality with all the cats, where does that universal quality exist? That's why people reject Platonism, because it starts to get spooky and spiritual. It starts to become really hard to reconcile Platonism without taking another step into, hello, everybody watching, hello, theist here. No, ew! Yeah, that's why I'm not sure other atheists are going to buy a Platonic atheist, even though he may have to be. Why? Because I'm almost positive mathematical Platonism is correct. And if you're so positive nominalism correct, give me the argument for nominalism. Nominalism has big problems. Platonism has seeming problems, but they might not be all so big. They may be reconcilable, but you got to plug in a Skyfarer to reconcile. Not saying that's where we're going yet. So relax, deep breaths. Everyone calm down. Shh. Nothing happening yet. No argument for God has been made. Keep your hands off keep your hands off of the crucifixes. No argument for God has been made. Put the Bible down. Put the Bible down.
You can't say. You can say digestion happens within the stomach and pancreas and so forth.
Right. That's why people get confused about why propositions are considered in transcendent categories. Yeah, you can say digestion happens in the stomach, but when you say digestion happens, where does the proposition I don't want to get too into it because it'll fry everyone's brain just talking about it. But
or do the small intestines, just in the same way you can say the laws of logic happen within the universe. What's the problem?
The problem is you wouldn't say.
The problem is where is an immaterial thing, Doug. Think of what you just said. You became a laws of logic Platonist. Okay, be careful, Doug. But what you agreed to. Why? Because we got you. I think we got you, dude. You agreed that the laws of logic exist and they're extant to a human being. Now he's asking you where. The thing that you already agreed exists extant to a human being has no spatial temporal locality. So he asked you a trick question. Has no spatial temporal locality, which means nowhere. Hello? Nowhere. Nowhere. There's no spatial temporal locality. So now we're talking about an immaterial transcendent realm. Uh-oh, sounds like theism. Uh-oh, better renege on the laws of logic, Doug. Why? Because we got you. We got us an atheist, Craig. I think we did. Better renege. You better become a nominalist about the laws of logic. Because you admit you had said they're there, extant to a human being. Now he's asking you where. And it's a trick question, Doug. Remember how you asked trick questions? Where does the thing that has no spatial temporal locality exist? Nowhere. Then how could it exist, Craig? Aha, got you all. $1 million question. In the Platonic realm with the theists and the angels and whatnots.
Digestion is eternal. You're saying laws of logic.
Wait.
Digestion is eternal. I understand what he means. Jim Bob does understand this stuff, but you have to understand this stuff cold to run it correctly because it gets really complicated and it's really confusing. I don't even understand it cold well enough to run it correctly. You got to be able to just explain immediately why something is a transcendent category, including a proposition, including, past. There's a bunch. And ideally you should know them all. Unity of personhood over time, blah, blah, blah. I don't know them well enough to run the argument correctly because questions come up and it's not immediately obvious why some of these things are transcendent categories.
Are you not saying laws of logic are eternal with the universe?
Yes, I'm just making an analogy. Of course, I'm not saying digestion is eternal. Actually,
well, it's a bad analogy. I don't know the common property in that analogy. You're just saying it's a process, right?
Digestion, is it eternal? If you said I digested my food yesterday, so that now happened in the past. Now that sentence is a proposition that has no spatial temporal locality. It's true, right? It's true. He digested some good food yesterday, but you can't empirically verify for the content of the statement. Something like that. I'm not saying it well. Never mind. Never mind.
Okay, so you're saying thinking is a process, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not saying can thinking exist before the human brain, because thinking does require the laws of
Next
logic.
question.
I would agree. Yeah. So I'm saying the laws themselves that thinking abides by, those are rules.
All right, I'm having a lot of fun, but I got to wrap it up soon. It's already gone on an hour, and I did a lot of talking over That's what happens when I do these videos. I talk more than I listen.
So I'm asking if you think the laws of logic they come from the eternal universe.
Yeah.
Right? Then I'm asking you, does that mean they exist before?
Yes, I've answered this like 5 times now.
Yeah, so we got you, dude. You're a Platonist, Platonic realist when it comes to the laws of logic. Think about what you just admitted to, dude. Because you are now in theist-friendly territory. You have left atheism, and now you are admitting that there's something. Most atheists, well, Pinecreek hasn't dealt with this philosophically enough to know that just trains are coming. Other atheists are going to never admit that there's. But he basically became laws of logic Platonic realist. He said the laws of logic exist, immaterial, transcendent to the human being, eternally, extant to a human being. Okay, so he's a Platonic realist when it comes to the laws of logic. He's probably going to want to back away from that. Why? Because we sort of got him with that. He's admitting to something that is suspiciously close to theism. That's the whole point of this. It's a better argument than people think it is. Just because people don't run it correctly doesn't mean it can't be run correctly. This isn't necessarily, Jim Bob isn't necessarily running correctly, but he doesn't. He's only been doing this for a little while. It takes a while to do this correctly. It's very, very, very complicated. And ultimately, it's really precise. Okay, it's you got to nail down the details. It's just not up for, not optional, because otherwise it just gets too chaotic and confusing. And I don't know the details well enough to actually run this correctly. But for you, everyone sees what's going on with the first leg of it. Okay, Pinecreek Doug is a Platonic. In this video, he'll watch this and he'll back away from it. Why? Because we got him. He's a Platonic. He's a Platonist about the laws of logic. And he's going to recognize that that puts him in jeopardy of not being so atheist as he thought, because it is not completely consistent with atheism, guys. That's the point. It's the whole point of this. It's not necessarily consistent with atheism. But Osnius Talks got it right. I said, can there be such a thing as a Platonic realist atheist? He said, I think so, but I'm not sure how to justify it. Okay, now we're on to the second. How on earth do you justify it? You come up with the means of justifying that position, and these videos and these questions go away, you have solved it. I don't know if it can be done. That's the point. The three smartest atheists in town, Emerson Green, Eric Steinhardt, and Thomas Nagel, are working on it as we speak. Can they do it? I don't know. It's the point. I don't know. Joe, can it be done? Smashingly good video, Craig. Cheerio. Joe, you say the same things all the time, Joe. I understand it's a good video. It's smashingly good, though, Craig. Yeah, this one is particularly smashing and good. Yeah, I understand that, Joe. Well, thanks for the support. What fun. All right, so, I got to wrap it up because this is fun, but I can't keep going. My wife will be home any minute, and then I'll, that is all, kids. You see, does everyone understand how this is working? This video is not going to be the clearest example of what's actually going on. It makes people more confused than bring more clarity, but whatever. Clarity's coming. Why? Because this is a really good argument. I'm working on something that has real substance here. There's something really at stake here. Really powerful, really important. And the disclaimer that I'll give you with almost every video I make, the stuff that I'm doing is 100 times more important than anything you see out there. Most of that stuff is crap. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant crap. Most of the atheist videos are irrelevant garbage of no consequence whatsoever. They don't have properly structured an argument. They have no clue. So they say this is an argument against the existence of God. It's not even close. It's an argument against an iteration of Christianity that not everybody has to believe or hold to. So yeah, I won't go down that because I'll rant about that for the next half hour. Never mind. Just won't get myself started, because if you read me up on that, no. A 2-hour video on my hands, 3-hour video. So that is it. That is all, kids. This was fun. We watched Pinecreek. Pinecreek is in the hot seat rather than, you see why he always wants to have the other person in the hot seat. It doesn't work well with him in the hot seat. He starts getting impatient, starts getting prickly. I guess he answered it pretty well. But you see the issue. I think the issue is clear. Pinecreek, too readily for atheist comfort, it became a form of Platonic realist when it came to the laws of logic. Okay, I'm not sure that's consistent with atheism. It's exactly the issue. It's exactly the issue. I don't know if that can actually be something that an atheist can be, a Platonic realist. I don't know. It's an open question. It's the whole point of these arguments. And no, none of this is an argument for the existence of God. So put your little sky fairy objections away. Not a single argument was made for the existence of God in this video at all. Okay, so there you have it, kids. That is all for now. Mass is ended. Go in peace. Amen.